Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of the Vintage Audio Spotlight. And for me, it's one of the more exciting episodes to put together, and one hopefully that you'll find exciting. But I have to warn you at the beginning, we're talking about a unit that has significant age to it and is not in a position where it's able to run at this time. Yes, I can get it kind of limping along and powered on, but as far as getting sound and things like that out, we're pretty far gone. We're pretty far away from that point in time, okay? But it does not mean that we can't examine this unit and appreciate it, because this is an exceedingly complex unit. And it marked one of those great big turning points in audio history, where confusion was at such an extreme that rather than stand still and wait till the air was cleared on things like broadcast stereo and bands and FCC regulations, well, manufacturers, Hi-Fidelity and receiver manufacturers, forged ahead anyway, and develop products that no matter what came down the pike in terms of regulations, rulings, ways of doing things, they would be able to cope with it. That period from 1958 to 1962 was an extremely frustrating period to be involved in the radio business, particularly the broadcast radio business, and especially the FM side. We still hadn't come to the point where the genius at Zenith had finally developed a way that he could take one signal from a station and put two different channels on it to develop broadcast stereo. So we had all these things called pseudo stereo, all of these workarounds that, well, if you did this and you did that, if you turn this to turn that, and you'll have two different broadcasts, and if you align them properly and tune them in properly, you can almost have what I call a synthetic stereo sound. So today we're talking about the pioneer, the SM-Q300B. This was manufactured in 1959 in Japan. It has significant age to it. It has problems to it, but is an extremely rare piece to find in the audio world, and I was very lucky to find one. Is it perfect? No. Is it perfectly fine for me? Absolutely, it is. It was 20 watts, but the thing that made this unusual was not so much the power rating, it was the fact that this unit had 2 AM tuners on it, 1 FM tuner, and 1 shortwave tuner in it. It had four actual tuners operating inside of it. And we'll get into the theory of why that would be necessary. The big struggle, as I hinted at before, was getting that signal to a receiver, getting a broadcast signal so that you could hear two channels of, say, music on it. It was like the ultimate dream of radio engineers in the 1950s, and they were just continuously frustrated with the inability to achieve something that was workable. You know, way back in the 1920s, and even back in Paris, I think in the early 1900s, stereo had already been proven and shown to people. I'm thinking that Paris exhibition, I think maybe 1900, 1910, they lined up a whole lot of microphones on a stage where an orchestra was playing. And they had wires running into another auditorium where they would have speakers arrayed in a similar location to where the microphones were placed in where the concert was being held. The effect was, if you sat in a different area of the auditorium, then you would have a slightly different listening dynamic than those who sat at the other side. On the other side. So it was really the experimental first stereo. But achieving two signals, and we're not going to talk about that sidebands and carrier frequencies and the way that they finally solved that. We're going to talk about what was going on in 1959 When in Japan, Pioneer Corporation developed this unit as their best guess about what would be going on in the world of stereo ahead, if it ever came to pass, okay? But they were ready for the pseudo stereo, as we'll see. When you talk about a unit like this, you're talking about a unit that was not really readily available for the mass market. This was 1959. The big surge of Japanese manufacturing had not come to the shores of the United States yet. The first real taste of quality of Japan really came from servicemen that were serving over in Korea and were stationed there after the Korean War, that were able to begin purchasing units from their commissaries and post exchanges, and the U.S. government, courtesy of Uncle Sam, would send those units home with them when they went home, and they found out that those units were really a very, very high quality. Well, this is an exceedingly complicated unit, and the way that it would actually function is rather interesting. And we have to imagine a couple different scenarios where this receiver would be used in the sense of stereo. Okay, so let's talk about that right now. It's kind of hard to believe that but the first broadcast stereo signal wasn't even sent out until 1961. I believe it was somewhere in Ohio. So this unit was made in 1959, and it certainly preceded that by a couple years. Now, the way the engineers envisioned this, and the way that the broadcast industry envisioned this, was that you would have an AM dial for traditional AM that you would use to maybe set your AM stations or tune your AM stations that you like to listen to. And then you would have that supplemental or additional AM station that if, let's say the Chicago Symphony was broadcasting a concert, they would instruct you to turn to whatever, 68 on your AM dial, and you would hear the concert, okay? And then they would tell you, go to your FM dial and tune in 101.2, and the result was that you would have two different channel outputs there that were producing what I call a synthesized stereo sound. Now, the problems were legendary with this. You can imagine if somebody next door is running an electric razor or a mixing ball, a mixer to make a cake. AM is just full of static, and especially at that time. And FM, although very clean because of the very wide bands traditionally associated with FM, it was often ungainly to have to tune in an AM station for channel A and a FM station for channel B. But at the time, there were almost 100 stations in the United States that were using this exact setup to broadcast this synthetic stereo. Very strange. We think of how cumbersome that sounds today when, well, we get stereo at that, our whole life is stereo these days. But back then, that was a really big thing. And I'll tell you what, the engineers knew too, that it was a real pain in the ass to do that. And they prayed for the day when FM multiplexing, or the ability to take a signal and decode it off of the main signal coming from the station, they dreamed of the day when you could just put a little extra insert into this unit and you would have full broadcast stereo with none of the nonsense associated with tune this to this and tune this to that. They were all doing it, by the way. It wasn't just particular to Pioneer. When we detail some of the Fisher Radio Corporation models, you'll see like the model, the 800B and some others, they had also the AM and the FM and the simulcast for, all that stuff that was such a headache that, people didn't like it and the engineers didn't like it. And the manufacturers didn't like it because to get FM, they had to go through all the FM stereo. They had to go through all the conniptions of design to make that happen in this unit. The result, the thing weighs a ton, it's built like a tank, and it is crowded with components, as I will show you right now. I will first pan across the unit just to give you the general look at it. And look of it, I have to say it's in pretty fair condition for being almost 60 years old. But you see there's some very unusual layout items on it that almost have to do a little bit of research to figure out what they are. Some of the prominent features that we can talk about that immediately are seen are the you can see the tuning eye that they used up here, and this does power up. We will see some of the green there. We're not getting any audio output or anything, but you will be able to see the unit light up towards the end. But you can see the tuning eye that helped tune stations in. See your power filter there. But over here on the side, you can see the dials, and up above you have your traditional AM dial from 55 kilocycles up to 160. Well, we have same layout that we have today, but we also have a shortwave band, which is very rare for a receiver too. We have an actual shortwave listening band, and I've heard some reviewers talk about it. It's still very functional today, so I think that is pretty cool. If we move over to the right here, you can see we have another AM station there running again from 55 to 160, just what we have today. And then we have a single FM station with the same basic layout that we have today on here. So there it is. You have four different tuners in here with we got three different bands, right? So if you look at tuning A on this side, you can see this controls the AM. Turn that a little bit and you can see that move. And on the other side here, see a little better without my hand in the way. And on the other side we have the same. And I do have a piece of broken glass in there, which is kind of a shame because it's almost irreplaceable. It's a pretty fine crack, and I can probably repair it to my satisfaction. But to do a color transfer on a transparency will probably be better and capture that within two small pieces of glass. But for now it's fine. And you see tuning for B. Now down below we have the various bands for the A grouping. You have your off, shortwave, AM, phono, and then you have the FM multiplexer. So they were preparing in case they ever solve the issue of having full production multiplexing, or the ability to have two signals brought in under one broadcast station's signal. And then you have an auxiliary for a tape deck, the bass, the treble, and then we have something called stereo normal and stereo reverse, and then a mode blend. And I guess it's just a way that you can put more stereo in or less stereo. It's a very unusual feature to me. I'm not going to claim I know exactly what it is, but that's my best guess of what the mode blend is. Stereo normal, and then probably a way to back off that stereo and get to a mono mode. So highly unusual. Have the balance, the volume, and on the other side we have the exact same features. We have the off, the FM multiplexer, the FM, and we have the AM, the phono, and the auxiliary. So it's interesting though, on this side we have an FM. If you notice up here for straight FM, which can run right now, if this unit could receive FM on mono, but if they ever got a multiplexer installed in here, they would go ahead and put this to multiplex, and they would be able to hear the stereo signal. But on the other side, guess what? You don't see that FM. So this side solely controls the FM, which of course it would, because it's up here on this dial. So there's some of the features, some of the controls on it. Up top we have, now you have to really translate these to modern times. You have something that's called a rumble filter here, and you'll see this on some of the old units. And a rumble filter is really nothing more than a filter that cuts off very low frequencies or rumbles that you would traditionally get if you were running a record player with this unit. You would have what was called turntable rumble, and if you turn that filter on, you could remove some of that rumble. We have a scratch filter, which will remove the some of the low frequencies. It's like a low frequency cutoff, and we have the whistle filter for a high frequency cutoffs, and we can put that in the middle for neutral. Power switch here, and we can use the tape monitor to record, or also to play. And then we have the loudness, the traditional loudness that you can immediately push that loudness down and mute the volume quite a bit. So it's quite a handsome layout. It's I guess it's functional for its time. There's a lot of confusion here when you look at a unit like this. It's like, well, we'll talk about that now. I've not been able to locate an owner's manual for the unit. I did manage to find a little write-up on some guy in Australia that had gone through and rebuilt one of these units, and he was really satisfied with the whole things, but the whole process. But there were definitely challenges, and I'm sure in restoring this, there's going to be challenges in this one too. This is an extraordinarily complicated layout here. It has an AM side dedicated over here. It's got another AM side over here on the schematic. It has a whole FM circuit here for detection, and it has all the control area in here. And over here it has the preamps, the 12AX7s tubes, and this thing uses 1, 2. I know there's 4 of them altogether. As you'll see, this thing is just loaded with expensive tubes, multiple detectors. I mean, it must have kind of been an engineer's nightmare to put this thing together and try to imagine every scenario that could come down the road. Yeah, we have one 12AX7 here, one here, and that's a preamp tube. Another 12AX7, another 12AX7 there, and then we have our output side over here with our 6BQ5s, also known as the EL84 powerhouse tubes, and they're generally the ones that you can cook a hot dog on them. They get so darn hot. And there's the output side, and this can take 4 ohm, 8 ohm, and 16 ohm speakers. So it gives you a choice of various impedances there when running. So I was very lucky to have the schematic noting what is ceramic capacitors, the mica, the electrolytics. So I'm able to get some of that information. I've done some preliminary looking here, and I think a lot of the problems have to do with maybe some bad tubes on the detecting side, and maybe a few bad coupling capacitors, and probably on the output side, we got some tubes that are red plating over here are getting so hot that it looks like a inside of a steel mill. They get so red hot. So let's open it up now and let's take a look. I know what you're saying. OMG, that is such a dirty unit inside. And of course it is. I understand it. I have not begun the restoration on this unit, but I suspect that this will be the next unit that we undertake a restoration on. And I suspect we might have some capacitors. This looks to have some bulging over here in these, but we'll have to check it out. We have a ton of tubes. There are so many tubes in this unit. This is the output side over here. The speaker outputs are over here. This is all of the detector. We have probably all of our 12AX7 preamp tubes here, and we have rectifier tubes hiding somewhere in here. There's more tubes than you can shake a stick at. We have the multiple gang variable capacitors, the tuning capacitors here. Yes, everything needs a very good cleaning on here, and that might go a long way to solving some of the issues. Excuse me. I have a very big power transformer here, all authentic and all original and all still running really well. And you have two big, beautiful, beefy speaker output transformers, and these are the wide frequency. Okay, these aren't any cheap jobs. The bigger your output transformers, the more frequencies you're going to be able to hear. The more that's not going to be left on the studio floor. So very important. The real heart of vintage audio is oftentimes these output transformers here, and the wide range frequencies, the highs and lows that they allow you to hear. Yes, it does need a cleaning, I know. And there's our eye tube. Okay, so I haven't popped the bottom. It's crammed with a lot of components that have to be replaced. A lot of capacitors for sure. So we're talking about a significant restoration job. I want to go ahead and power the unit up. I do have the variac here, so we don't smoke anything out. If there's going to be a problem, then we'll know pretty early on. But we're going to go ahead and fire it. What's really cool is this has the original cord on it, which you don't really see too often on these units. You usually get destroyed and you cut off the cord and they ended up at a Goodwill or a place like that, and then often ended up in the junk bin. So we're going to go ahead and just make sure the power is off here. I think that's off, and we're going to go ahead and make sure our variac's all the way down, our power, and we're going to go ahead and power her up. So I will bring you in for a close look. Fire in the hole. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put the power on here. That'll do it, and we'll slowly start bringing our power up on the variac. See what signs of life, if any, we get here. There's the power button. You see some lights on down there. And I see a little life coming to the eye tube here. You want to be very careful around these electronics. Don't go sticking your hands in anything. So we're running about, let me see what we got here. We're running about 78 volts. We'll let it just sit there for a minute. Our eye tube is actually starting to come to life a little bit. You may be able to see that. Get that focused there. We'll go ahead and put a little more power to her. Actually start to hear some hum. So we're up at full power now. Get the lights off here. Give me a second. It's really a forest of light, isn't it, in here? Let's see if we can get that. There we go. We got the autofocus. So I don't know if you can see that one output tube that I'm pointing to there. You can see that that's red plating on the side. That's getting way too much voltage there, with the result that it's just running hot. You're going to create a lot of distortion in the output with that. So this is the output section over here. This is all the preamp section up front. So I have not tested any of these tubes yet, or anything on the unit at all, just to basically get a glow out of the tubes is always a good start. And in my test, this is just incredibly hot. These units run hot anyway, and the joke is that you could have a barbecue on top of them. Room heaters. So looks like the tubes are lighting up. This might be a dead one down here. No, I see a little glow down there. All right, so there she is. The heat that's coming off of this is amazing. All right, so we probably have some bad caps amongst some other problems in here. Pretty cool though. Something you could definitely sink your teeth into, huh? Let's see if we can get any action out of the eye tube here. I'm not even sure what band we would be on. Probably not. Out of that, I don't think that's going to be cooperative tonight, but that's pretty cool. See the glow of that, and opens and closes as you get stations tuned in. So I can't really see what I'm doing, but you get the basic idea. So there she is, rigged for night running. The Pioneer SM-Q300B. That's going to be a wrap today, and I really want to thank you for being along on, well, introducing one of the coolest pieces of vintage audio gear that's out there, the 1959 Pioneer SM-Q300B. And yes, it is a engineering marvel, but probably an engineering marvel that the manufacturer never wanted to undertake. But when you're a manufacturer and you're producing high fidelity and listening products, you can't just say time out, let's close the factories, let's just close all the engineering department, let's just shut everything down until everything becomes clear in the future. You know what? No one would ever build anything. So the solution that Pioneer and so many of the manufacturers did, just build it for every eventuality that could come down the pike. 2 AM stations broadcasting, 2 different signals, one channel, the other channel, put them together, fine, this unit can do it. You want to listen to shortwave? Hey, here you go, here's a shortwave set built right into it. You want to have the synthetic stereo with AM? Okay, one channel, one station broadcast on the AM, one channel, one side of the auditorium, and the FM channel, the FM station broadcast from the other side of the auditorium, and when you get them to your unit at home, they're mixed together and you have your synthetic stereo. Now, I wasn't around in well, actually I was, but I never listened or had the experience of that synthesized stereo, and I probably never will, and it's one of those things that I'll always regret having. But I will never regret having really cool units like this. So I can't wait to get to the restoration of this unit. It's going to be a fun project. It's probably going to be the next thing that we undertake, and wouldn't it be beautiful to be able to have this on the wall of sound. But remember, this unit does not have that thing called the FM multiplexer in it, that little thing that decodes that broadcast signal and is able to extract out another signal inaudible to the human ear and then convert that or put that back into audible sound within the unit. So the best this unit will ever do on our wall of sound will be to be a historical marker of another great point in vintage audio history. So we'll listen in mono, we'll still enjoy it. Alright everybody, thanks so much for being along on our third vintage audio spotlight. A lot of people have made comments and a lot of people have messaged me and really expressed joy at having this series. So I am really thrilled with the way it's being received. Thank you very much. Stay tuned next week. We're going to do it all again with another Spotlight vintage audio piece of equipment. Thanks so much, everyone. And if you liked the video, hit the share button, give a thumbs up, leave a nice comment below, and make sure you are subscribed. Thanks, everyone.